All right, thanks for making some time to learn about Reciprocal by Spadinabus, which is a real-time interaction management or RTIM solution that is made with AWS and works really well with AWS. In this video, I'm going to walk you through what is RTIM, followed by a demonstration of the business user experience for Reciprocal, and I'm going to wrap it up with the benefits of the solution, in particular for organizations that have already invested heavily in cloud or they plan to in the future. So what is RTIM? Probably the easiest way to understand it would be if you're already familiar with some of the players in this space. I think HCL's, formerly of IBM's Unica Interact offering is a great example, as well as Pega's Customer Decision Hub, and SAS has their RTDM and Intelligent Decisioning products. These very closely meet that definition on the left here from Forrester, where they talk about these sophisticated decisioning engines to personalize in the moment. So these are decisions that we're making within milliseconds, so things like a next best action or perhaps just the next natural flow in an interaction that's happening on a customer-initiated experience, such as a visit to a website or some type of session in a mobile app, for example. And of course, that's to do to drive all kinds of business outcomes, such as customer engagement and ultimately the bottom line. There's other solutions on this list that I don't think quite as well fit the definition or what we traditionally think of as an RTIM solution. So you can see Adobe's Target solution is on this list. I think of it more of as an A/B testing tool, but Adobe and Salesforce, their offerings in the Marketing Cloud suite, the lines are starting to blur. So I think a lot of this space is going to be, a lot of the areas are going to kind of merge together here. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that. So why would you consider looking at Reciprocal versus some of these other solutions I had on the previous slide? Well, if you are a large enterprise and you like buying monolithic applications, well, you probably will continue doing that. You like the idea of having fewer vendors. This idea of going and, like we traditionally have over the last 15 years plus, is to go and say, I want a gigantic marketing suite and I want to buy multiple modules and get a discount on all of those. And I'm going to try and implement as many of them as I can. So that's been the traditional story there. You probably will end up implementing that marketing suite using a waterfall delivery approach. And you may have an expectation that you won't need to customize that solution. That's part of the value proposition. But if you do need to customize it, you're probably going to do that after the initial implementation. You're going to try and get the features out of the box first and then do heavy customization after. And that's the traditional monolith kind of large MarTech suite purchasing paradigm that we're all used to. So what are the alternatives to that? Well, Reciprocal is an alternative to that. It makes a lot of sense for organizations that already have, or part of your organization that has a culture of agile development. So you have your pods and your sprints. It's also makes a lot of sense for organizations that have a predisposition towards looking at best of breed solutions. So you might consider Reciprocal for your RTIM needs, but you might say, well, we'd prefer to use some other solution for outbound marketing that's outside of the AWS ecosystem, and we'd like to mix and match the best of breed. The third distinguishing factor would be a preference to customize before. So this means consciously saying, well, we know there's going to be some type of customization, but let's focus our energy on the use cases and the scenarios that we know are going to drive value today. And let's prioritize those as opposed to trying to make pre-built components or pre-built features work for us, which is not always successful. So those are some of the differences. In terms of just a quick setup before I show you the product, I need to help you understand where RTIM sits and where the experience I'm going to show you fits within kind of a larger data flow of the experience. So on a single slide, here's an oversimplification of what a solution, an RTIM solution looks like, and what I'm going to show you for reciprocal here. So I've got inputs on my left, I've got outputs on my right, and in the center is where a business user is deciding what to do with all this in order to, at scale, allow an enterprise to make a decision about next best action, or that flow in the customer initiated interaction, that whatever that next step is, or that next message. So we need a customer information in the form of segments or customer profile. Increasingly, that's not good enough. We also need some type of data stream. So these things are things that look like events or behavioral metrics, such as what's my click stream in the moment right now. So that's a key input there. Second input is this idea of a messaging or offer or content library. So these are all the unique messages that we can be sending customers when they interact with us. So we need to be able to have access to that library of messages. And the third thing is predictive models, which increasingly are competing, and I'll show how they work with traditional segmentation rules or traditional arbitration rules that are controlled by marketers. So that's our inputs over on the right here. Ultimately, where are we interacting with? What's the end channel, right? So it's we're making the decision here, and the delivery of that and the actual final interaction happens at that channel level, whether it's a call center agent, it could be a teller, mobile app, web, could even be a point of sale. And the last thing that's important to capture here is, of course, we need to be able to learn. It's not just about making the decision. We have to be able to report on that in a variety of different ways for a business audience, for an IT audience. And we also need to be able to take those inputs of how the customer is interacting with our messages and feed that back into training for our predictive models. So that's an overview of what the solution looks like. I'm going to jump now into a demonstration of Reciprocal and show you that business and user experience of the application. Okay, so this is our live demonstration of Reciprocal. Again, this is the business experience here. This is where we're building interactions to, this is where RTIM happens from a business perspective. So it's a column-based experience. We've got segment, zone, offer, and something called distribution. So I'll walk through each of these. Segment is a group of customers, and in some cases it could be something that's based on predictive or historical data. So we've got things like a life stage, new child, something like that. But it could also be something that is much more real time in the moment. So a large deposit, for example. Second column we have is the zone, which is the channels. So, web, mobile, kiosk, the teller, but also a sub area or sub piece of real estate of a channel, you could think of it as. So in this case, I've got both the web hero banner, but I also have a web sidebar. So a different part of the web channel, different area. Offer model is where I'm able to select offers manually based on the marketer's intuition of what should be assigned to each segment and zone combination. And I'm also able to add in predictive models. So in this case, I can add a next best action model that's coming from AWS SageMaker. So distribution. So distribution allows me to decide between my offers, human assigned offers, and the model, what percentage of incoming interactions should be assigned to each. So what we've got here is a 50-50 split. So we can see the relative performance of marketers' intuition versus the machine. So are the data scientists and this model, in case from SageMaker, is that what's going to perform better? In both cases, the contact and response history, so the clicks, the opens, any type of interaction that we have with the consumer based on these recommendations, that feeds back into a common contact and response history. I'm able to add in additional models here. So if I had a AWS personalized, so that turnkey AWS machine learning solution, I can also add that to the mix. In that case, then I'd want to do is to split it three ways, so 33% each. So that's how I set up the distribution. The user experience for manually assigning offers looks like this. So instead of the distribution, I have something called weight, or a marketing score for each of my potential messages. So in this case, I have decided that mobile deposit is something that's a higher priority than global money transfer or paperless. So this is going to be served up first. If it's rejected or there's no interaction with it, the next message will be the next one in priority based on contact fatigue rules that can be configured elsewhere in the application. If I need to add other offers, this is where I'm able to access my offer library. So I'm able to select those through a tree experience there and add those. So if we step back and think, okay, why is this relevant? Well, this is important because in order to drive positive or good outcomes or desired outcomes from a customer engagement standpoint, business needs to be empowered. They need to be empowered with the ability to make changes quickly, to test and learn. So when it comes to the manual prioritization of messages and offers, this screen, this experience here is driving that. But we also need to empower marketers with the ability to test new models in conjunction with that. And if there's a champion challenger scenario, they need to be able to do that and to dynamically adjust the relative distribution for each of these. So this is our way of empowering that kind of human versus machine testing and learning experience to see which one has the biggest impact for driving customer engagement. Okay, so let's wrap up with some of the benefits of selecting Reciprocal as your RTIM solution, in particular if you are a cloud-centric organization or that's where you're headed. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to overlay AWS services that have an affinity to RTIM to our diagram that we looked at just before the demo. So why am I doing this? A couple of reasons. One is latency, and the second is pre-built integration. So I'll walk through a couple examples so you understand what I mean by that. So for example, if you have already made investments in or plan to look at Kinesis, which is AWS's streaming service, or perhaps a managed Kafka service offering, this is an important type of data that's an input to an RTIM solution. This is where you're going to get the rich clickstream behavioral data, those patterns. It's also where you would get, in a banking context, the transactional data. This is something that should be low latency. You should have low latency access to this. That's what's going to drive the more relevant conversations or interactions with your customer. And IT also demands that because, again, this is a sub-millisecond solution, needs to have really fast response times. Another example is AWS Redshift, which is AWS's data warehousing service. This tends to be one source or key source of customer profile data for an RTIM solution. Having the ability to have the most current copy of or a live copy of that profile data, again, is something that's key for driving engagement and having demonstrating that we know as much as possible about the customer to be relevant. So those are some latency reasons to look at this, kind of the latency story. Pre-integration is another key one. So Reciprocal is built with the most current AWS services. They tend to be serverless. So you can see Lambda here, for example. Lambda and other services, part of the AWS ecosystem, they have and or will continue to have, and they're adding on additional pre-integration with the services you see here and future services. So one of the more relevant ones would be the pre-built integration with services like SageMaker to be kicking off training or being able to call out to models for recommendations, whether it's with SageMaker or Personalize. I don't have time to get into detail in this video, but you can see there is affinity with reporting services, being able to report on the RTIM contact and response data, within the same public cloud. Again, helps from a latency standpoint. And in some businesses, it could be mission critical where you are looking for that up to the minute responses. This can be the case in some certain industries, such as media. And lastly, there are services within the AWS ecosystem that increasingly look a lot like the monolithic applications in terms of the scope of what they do. So the monolithic MarTech applications. For example, AWS Pinpoint does have the ability to do outbound email, SMS marketing, other custom channels. And we've got other solutions like Connect, which allow you to use RTIM in a context of driving the recommendations for call center agents, for example. So that's an overview of why Reciprocal makes sense within that AWS ecosystem. There's lots more to learn about, so I'd invite you to visit us at spadinabus.com/reciprocal. We've got articles, documentation that you can explore further on this subject. And when you're ready, please reach out and we'd be happy to conduct a customized demo for you.